One of the most urgent tasks for our country is to decisively defeat the climate hysteria hoax.
We are in the beginning of a mass extinction.
The ability of CO2 to do the heavy work of creating a climate catastrophe is almost nil at this point.
The price of oil has been artificially elevated to the point of insanity.
That's not how you power a modern industrial system.
The ultimate goal of this renewable energy, plan is to reach the exact same point that we're at now.
You know who's tried that? Germany. 7 straight days of no wind for Germany. Their factories are shutting down.
They really do act like weather didn't happen prior to 1910.
Today is Friday.
That's right, Greta. It is Friday, and this is the best day of the week. And not just because Memorial Day weekend is almost here, it's because this is the day the Heartland Institute broadcasts the Climate Realism Show. And this is episode number 203 for those of you scoring at home. My name is Jim Lakely. I'm your host and executive vice president of the Heartland Institute. We're an organization that has been around for 42 years, and we are known as the leading global think tank, pushing back on climate alarmism. Heartland and this show bringing the data, the science, the truth that counters the climate alarmist narrative you've been fed every single day of your life. There is nothing else quite like the Climate Realism Show streaming anywhere. So I hope you will help us out by bringing friends to view this live stream every Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern time. And also like, share, subscribe, and leave your comments underneath this video. All of these easy actions help convince YouTube's very mysterious algorithm to smile upon this program. And that gets the show in front of even more people. And our weekly reminder that big tech and the legacy media are not big fans of the way we cover climate and energy policy on this program. So Heartland's YouTube channel remains demonetized. But if you want to help this program, and I really hope you do, please visit heartland.org/TCRS. That's heartland.org/TCRS. And you can join other friends from around the world of this program who help bring it to the world every single week. And we want to thank our streaming partners, junkscience.com, CFACT, What's Up With That, the CO2 Coalition, and our friends at Heartland UK Europe. We have a very fun show today, so let's get started. We have with us, as usual, Anthony Watts. He's senior fellow at the Heartland Institute and publisher of the world's most viewed website on climate change, What's Up With That. We have Linnea Lukin, senior fellow for energy and environment policy at the Heartland Institute. And we have Andy Singer, our producer extraordinaire behind the scenes, making sure everything looks and flows wonderfully. And joining us today is James Taylor. He is the president of the Heartland Institute. It's been a while, James. Welcome back to the best climate realism show in the world.
Always great to be on the best climate realism show in the world, Jim. Thanks for having me.
I think it's also the only one, but I'll still take that as a description. Regular viewers will note that Sterling Burnett is missing today. He called me just before the show and said that his internet is down. It probably won't be back before the show is over. So if you're a fan of looking at the things that Sterling has killed to eat on his wall, you'll have to tune in again next week instead. All right, we do have a big show, and we want to get started, as we always do, with the crazy climate news of the week. Hit it, Andy. Thank you very much, Bill Nye. I've called this one Crappy Climate Migrants, and you'll understand here very shortly. This comes from the BANGOR Daily News in Maine. Headline, this couple moved to Bangor to flee climate change in Texas. We were alerted to this story by our friends and fellow realists over at Climate Dispatch. Let me read some for you. Sean Good had lived in Bangor for less than 2 months with his wife, Sarah, when he woke up to find human excrement on the front porch of their new home in Little City. They found someone had slept on cushions that belonged on outdoor furniture the couple hadn't yet unpacked and defecated in several areas on their porch. While the couple was immediately horrified and didn't enjoy cleaning up the mess, they said the experience hasn't changed their love of Bangor and excitement over moving to the Queen City. Quote, we had a lot of reasons to move away from Austin, but the one that hit us the hardest was the weather, Sean said. In Austin, We were facing our fourth catastrophic event in 5 years, and nobody was doing anything to address it, unquote. The couple are one example of a growing trend of climate migrants, people who forcibly or voluntarily leave their home due to extreme weather events or climate change, such as wildfires, sea level rise, or hurricanes. From 2008 to 2024, more than 22 million people in the US were displaced by environmental disasters, the Internal Displacement Monitoring Center found. Now, James, since you're here, I will start with you. This claim of 22 million climate migrants in the US alone, that's a bunch of crap, right?
Most likely, but let's assume for the sake of argument that it's accurate. Just for the sake of argument. You know, when you're driving down the highway and you look on the other side and it's like a parking lot because there's an accident or even if there's not an accident, because there's so much traffic going, like, say, into the city, and then there's not so much leaving. That's what these people must have found when they were driving from Texas to Maine, because when you look at the numbers, the migration that's happening in this country is almost entirely from blue states to red states and from colder states to warmer states. There's a reason why I'm here in Tampa, Florida right now, as opposed to Chicago, Illinois. But yeah, you know, I guess somebody has to be the contrarian and move from Texas to Maine and say it's because of the climate. Somebody has to.
Yeah, it's like it's like trying to walk the wrong way going to a football game or something, right? It was quite the scene. What do you think, Anthony?
Well, you know, the fact that they found excrement on their porch after going through all that, I would say that is the poop de grace, really. It just, you know, none of these folks seem to think this stuff through really well. It's like when they said, nobody's doing anything about the weather in Austin. So, you know, what are you going to do? Go outside and shout at a cloud or something like they do in The Simpsons? You know, it's just crazy. But this goes to show that people who are infected with climate derangement syndrome will do anything with their lives and their livelihood to avoid climate somehow, which they conflate with weather wrongly. Mm-hmm. You know, there are no true climate refugees ever anywhere because the weather is always the factor. The climate is a choice you made by living in a place that has a generally static climate. The climate does not change from year to year. The weather does.
Yeah. Linnea, I want to state here a fact and maybe get your reaction to it. So I was very skeptical. I mean, 22 million climate migrants in the US alone. That's, you know, as I said, sounds like a bunch of crap. Turns out that the 2025 Internal Displacement Monitoring Center actually reported, and it specifically notes that, quote, many of these internal displacements were preemptive evacuation that saved lives, unquote. And so that is counted as, quote unquote, displacement. So someone who evacuates from a Florida hurricane warning and then comes back a week later is in that 22 million. And the report also says explicitly, quote, this does not disregard that does not disregard displacement resulting from weather-related events as necessarily linked with climate change, and its measure of disaster-induced displacements is not a measure of climate-induced displacement. So somebody please should alert Bangor Daily News reporter Kathleen O'Brien about this and the rest of the media to boot.
I can't believe you're asking journalists to read, Jim. That's like completely outrageous. No, they don't know what they're talking about. The thing that struck me most about this story was them saying that they've had five bad weather years, or like 5 weather disasters in a row the last 5 years in Austin, Texas. When do you have a year anywhere in the country that doesn't have a bad, like some kind of a severe weather day, at least once during the year? There's nowhere in the United States, I don't think. Maybe San Diego. I don't know.
Yeah, right.
I don't. Huh?
That's a good choice, San Diego. Our friend John Coleman, the late John Coleman, went there, and he once complained to me, I love working here in this city, but the weather is damn boring.
Yeah. There are very few places. It reminds me of right before the big hurricane a couple years ago that the remnants trashed North Carolina. I can't recall exactly what the hurricane's name was. Someone in the comments will post it. I think it was an H name, but there were all these articles talking about how real estate agents in Asheville had told people that the area was a climate haven, as in it was a haven from extreme weather events. Helen, thank you, Charles Rotter.
Helene, yeah.
Helene, yeah, okay, awesome. So there were real estate agents who were advertising in the western United States, in like California and Nevada, places that are prone to wildfires or places that are prone to extreme heat and droughts, that Asheville, North Carolina is a climate haven. And so you get all of these people from out of state settling into a mountain, or like a river valley that was created by repeated flooding. And they are all shocked and appalled when they have weather that results in severe flooding. And they're upset and they feel cheated and they feel like climate change is chasing them around or something, because they went somewhere thinking that they were going to find a place that didn't have extreme weather events. It's just, it's sad. It's completely and utterly absurd. But it does kind of go to show just how isolated we are here in the United States, even in the places that do experience severe weather, from having our stuff, like, I don't know, from the impacts of weather in general. I was talking earlier today about some statistics about like Europeans dying of heat. And I'm very sorry. We have many UK viewers of this show, and they are currently in a heat wave over there. I think it's like 80 degrees or something today in London, which is hot for them. It is hot for them, but their death statistics from severe heat are like just ridiculously high compared to deaths in the United States from the same. And it's a matter of infrastructure. It's not a matter of their heat is worse, obviously. I mean, we have people who are living in some of the hottest places on the planet in this country, and they do just fine because they have air conditioning, because they know how to handle it. Over there, they don't have the infrastructure for it. So even, a modest heat wave of 80 degrees or so, kicks their butts and can be legitimately dangerous for them. So I really think that in the United States, especially, we're very isolated from the effects of weather that other people have to deal with. And so when you do have a big storm, it's seen as, unusual or unprecedented when it really isn't.
Just one follow-up on that. All that is true. Even that being the case, when you look at the UK, when you look at countries in Europe, you still see that far more people die each year as a result of cold than heat. So even when you don't have air conditioning to mitigate when you have warmer temperatures, and you do have heat in all these buildings, again, it's cold that kills, not heat.
Yeah. And just overall, the reason we pointed this out is, besides the crappy part of it, which was funny, is the fact that the idea that this story was putting forth the idea that there are climate migrants, that people are having to move, and they cited sea level rise. I noticed we don't have any climate migrants from San Diego, as we just pointed up, and they're right along the ocean. And of course, the Obamas they were migrants to a climate risk area in Martha's Vineyard, and they spent millions on a new mansion. So when you see the term climate migrants, they actually don't exist.
Sorry for being late, by the way. Blame Spectrum, not me. But it turns out there are some climate migrants. They're migrating to the coast because they like the coast. Look.
Yep. Oh, so look at that.
Froze again.
I have to say that just starting about 30 seconds ago, as soon as Sterling's face came up next to mine, I've been feeling this overwhelming urge to go on a rant. I can't quite place it, and I don't think I can fight it. It's just been growing.
Yeah.
Well, don't worry. You'll get your chance. All right.
Sterling, I think I could write a credible article that we could pass around as a joke that says climate change causes more internet outages.
Look, I think Spectrum is beset by climate change, if that's the case, because worst service I've ever had.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to our second item. Welcome back, or welcome in, I should say. Sterling Burnett. Glad to have you ahead of schedule on that. Our second item here is yet another James Bond villain plan. These things keep seeming to pop up over and over. This comes from Politico. Headline: a closely guarded plan to cool Earth is revealed. Oh my gosh, what could possibly go wrong? Let me read from the story a little bit. A company that aims to make billions of dollars by cooling the Earth has lifted the veil of secrecy that until now has hidden its plans for preventing sunlight from overheating the planet. It hinges on aerosol particles that are 125 times smaller than the tiniest grains of sand. Stardust Solutions has raised $75 million since 2023 from investors who are betting that global warming could get so out of control that governments might decide to pay the Israeli-US startup to spray millions of tons of sunlight-reflecting aerosols into the stratosphere. Its plans were so guarded that they were in a secret volcanic lair, that it required scientists to sign non-disclosure agreements before they could study its potentially planet-altering technologies. Now, hopefully they have better luck working on this super secret plan than some of those UFO scientists who have seemed to have had a little bit of trouble lately. Let me read a little bit more here. The company revealed the makeup of its proprietary particles. They are made up of what's known as amorphous silica that are 0.5 microns in size, only visible with a microscope. The startup also shared information about the systems it could use to disperse the spherical silica particles some 11 miles above the ground and monitor them as they fall back to Earth. Quote, our premise from the start was that the only way sunlight reflection technology would be considered by governments is if we provided robust, scientifically based solutions to all the challenges and concerns, and it proved to be safe, practical, and controllable, the CEO said in a statement. Quote, that is the mission we took upon ourselves, and the details we are releasing today represent a major step toward that goal, unquote. Now, the company is a leader in solar geoengineering, the hypothetical pursuit of altering clouds or changing other characteristics of the atmosphere in ways that would interrupt sun rays before they hit the Earth. Other ideas envision building massive sunshades in space or creating bubbly mixtures of reflective sea foam to limit the amount of heat absorbed by the oceans. That'll be it for that. Anthony, what is it with this obsession by climate alarmists with geoengineering? They seem to think they have put nature completely under their control.
Well, that's a common theme amongst all climate alarmists. They seem to believe that mankind can actually go out and affect the weather. You know, they believe that our actions, the standard of living, our modes of transportation, everything associated with humans affects the climate and therefore affects the weather. And they are obsessed with the idea that we have to do something about it. You know, their whole line of reasoning is action now. We have to take action now before it's too late. And of course, every year they move the goalpost ahead, you know, where it's too late. And they keep doing that. It's as far as I'm concerned, it's some kind of a personality disorder where they think that they are that omnipotent, that powerful, that they can do something that's going to change the climate. The bottom line is the Earth does not give a rat's butt about humans being on the planet. It does what it's going to do. And as far as humans are concerned, compared to the planetary forces, you know, nature will just go out and squish us like a bug if it chooses to. And we've seen that happen before. You know, there's been several mass extinctions of animal and plant life where nature just, you know, does what nature does. And so we're really at the whims of nature. But these folks are wrongheaded in thinking that they can change this. It's just basically their whole modus operandi. They don't want to look at facts. You know, if we put facts in front of them, they don't want to look at that. It's all a belief system. And that's why they keep focusing on this.
Yeah, I want to jump in here for a second to tell people, you know, please read this actually read this political article before losing your minds about it. These guys are grifters. And Politico is a hack publication for writing this headline in a way that promotes the grift for their investors. I believe that these guys are going public now with their top secret thing because investment is drying up, right? Its plans are so guarded that it required scientists to sign non-disclosure agreements. You mean like every startup that wants to, keep their technology, aside so that they can get patents for it and stuff. They talk later in the article about how they want to get patents for the particles and other technologies. The particles being silica, which, as people in the comments have pointed out, is an element of sand. And they want to get patents for this stuff. They have not even submitted their papers for public review yet. It's only just now doing that after apparently years of gaining investor backing. It's a grift. These guys are just cheating their investors. They don't even have proof of concept yet. And again, the aerosol thing is kind of hilarious though, because they could just take scrubbers off of ships. We have all these laws about reducing aerosols from shipping and from power plants and stuff. Just take it off of them. That would be a lot cheaper than giving this company billions of dollars to go spray the upper atmosphere.
Yeah, I'm guessing that the grifters are the tanning booth industry, because I started panicking even here in Tampa, Florida. Oh my goodness, they're going to dim the sun. Even here, I'm not going to be able to get a tan anymore. So I think that's what's behind it. These folks are going to corner the market. It's going to be like in Trading Places. They're going to corner the market on orange juice. So anyway, I think that's what's behind it. But this is so far-fetched. Grifters are going to grift. Crazy's going to crazy. But when you think about it, the fact that there are people, and it's not just that these wackadoos that are proposing this, but the folks at Politico that are cheerleading it. And we've probably others, as well as myself, have seen these types of articles in the past where the hubris, the arrogance, the feeling that you can never possibly be wrong. I can never be wrong. And you're going to actually, let's assume you could do this. We're going to actually, and they say something is controllable. No, you can't control it. You put that stuff in the atmosphere. I guess maybe you can hope over however many years it dissipates, but you are going to conduct this. They talk about carbon dioxide being this grand experiment. Well, no, carbon dioxide levels have been much higher than today for most of the Earth's history. It's not an experiment, but you're going to do this because you think the temperatures might rise 1 degree over the next century. I mean, come on, it's ridiculous. It shows how just out of touch with reality these psychotic extremists are.
I want to take it a little bit more seriously and think about the implications of it. Look, silica is, a component of sand. It's also a component of glass. We have an EPA that tells us we got to take gas particles out of the air at parts per million and parts per billion. And these guys are saying we need to be spraying glass bits and sand into the air at parts that are detectable. I don't want a lot of sand in my lungs or glass in my lungs. I think that's probably a bad health choice. Far worse than any problems that might occur because temperatures rise a degree. Anthony says, climate scientists always have this hubris. I don't think it's just climate scientists. I think it's scientists in general that think they know best. We're the science, we're the scientists. So we come up with something pie in the sky. We write a paper and we know that the paper will work. We don't even know, proof of concept means nothing. They've been doing this for years about, we have 20 wedges. And if you do all these wedges, you get the climate, you get the emissions down. You just like these wedges just fall like manna from heaven. Everything gets installed at once. Everything gets shut down at once. And if you do that, based on our calculations, we've solved it. This is stupid. This is expensive. And I'm a little bit concerned. It could be dangerous. Like I said, I don't want glass particles or sand particles sprayed into the air that I'm going to eventually, because they say they'll fall back down to the scale. Okay, they're eventually going to reach the part of the atmosphere where I'm breathing, folks, and I don't want to be breathing this stuff.
Yeah, I'll say I would not be concerned whatsoever about like having lung problems or something from this. They're talking about putting these I'm saying only millions of tons, which in the scheme of the atmosphere actually isn't very much at all, into the stratosphere. If you live in Florida, you're breathing in silica like right now from it coming across the ocean on the winds in Africa. And that's probably even more material than they're planning on putting into the stratosphere. They're saying that they want to put into the stratosphere. I think it's a grift. I think it's pure grift from the top down on there. I think that they know full well that this will not reach a point where they're actually going to get paid by international governments to spray this. And I think that they are just siphoning money from investors. I really do think that. I think they're cheating the system here. And they're frankly doing what a lot of green companies have been doing for decades, right? They're saying, hey, here's this proposition we have. You can give us $1 billion and we'll keep researching it for you. Yeah. Okay.
I agree with you that it's a grift. And if stupid people want to invest in a stupid technology that'll never be used, more power to them. I wish I had that kind of money to throw around. But still, I don't care if it's parts per million. You're right. I breathe in dust every day, around my house. James lives in Florida. He breathes in sand every day. I don't need additional parts added. I already get natural parts. I don't need extra stuff.
Jim pulled a Jim. I had muted myself while speaking. I was just going to say that of all the green grifts, this is a real long shot. There's so many easier ways to grift, but I guess it's good news that they're drying up. So Bond villain futures are probably not really in the future. All right, let's move on to our third item. I've called this Alarmists Be Illin', and that title is for all the Run DMC fans out there. I'm speaking to you, Sterling Burnett. This is from The Guardian. Declare climate crisis a global public health emergency. Experts tell the World Health Organization. I mean, we can't seem to go a week without picking a story from The Guardian. Those dark money alarmists are getting their money's worth. All right. I'll read a bit for us here. The climate crisis should be declared a global public health emergency by the World Health Organization, or millions more people will die unnecessarily, leading international experts have said. The independent Pan-European Commission on Climate and Health, which was convened by the WHO, concluded the climate crisis was such a worldwide threat to health that the WHO should declare it, quote, a public health emergency of international concern. The international spread of vector-borne disease, such as dengue, as well as the health impacts of extreme weather events, global heating, food insecurity, and air pollution, make a, quote, public health emergency of international concern necessary, said the Commission's report. In an interview with The Guardian, Katrin Jakobsdottir, I think that's how you say it, a former prime minister of Iceland who chaired the commission, said, quote, the climate crisis may not be a pandemic, but it's still a public health emergency that threatens humanity's very health and survival. And if we don't act more quickly and comprehensively, many millions more people could die or face life-changing illness, unquote. Linnea, the WHO did such a great job with COVID that they're going to do great with this mandate for endless power. Did you also, like me, not notice that millions have been killed by climate change?
This is very silly. So this is a panel of 11 random ex-health ministers from different European countries who are coming to say that the World Health Organization has to declare climate change a health emergency, which I thought they already did.
I thought so,
but I guess they have to do it harder. And since the United States is the country that's not participating in this stuff anymore and also no longer participates in the World Health Organization,
they really mean it this time.
Go ahead. I guess
really
you can declare it. I guess you can. We're not going to listen. So good luck with that. We're still not going to give you any money for it. So, have fun, I guess. I guess that the problem with saying that climate causes all of these deaths is a little bit like what I was talking about at the beginning of the show. It's true that weather causes that weather can kill people, right? That's obviously true. People die of heat stroke. A lot more people die of freezing to death or, hypothermia and stuff. The solution is not to decarbonize. The solution is not to deindustrialize. The solution is to get more people on the planet wealthier and to get more people on the planet access to energy and infrastructure so that they can protect themselves from extreme weather. The solution is not to get more people living without air conditioning, without heating, without safe indoor cooking elements instead of having to use dung and wood indoors. The solution is gas and nuclear and hydro where it makes sense and is affordable. The solution is affordable, reliable energy. It's not to, further impoverish people on energy.
I wrote about this week. I actually covered it for Climate Realism. And I pointed out, first off, does the WHO really want to step in it again? They're already distrusted for their work on COVID. They're shilling for the Chinese Communist Party. They're distrusted for their work on, their work on trans people, their work on guns as public health crisis. They get into all this social policy as opposed to strictly dealing with health. Their reputation could likely fall further. We've already gotten out, but they should base it on facts. And so the facts are these. Deaths due to non-optimum temperatures are way down because more people die from cold than heat. Deaths due to weather-related events have fallen 98 or 99% over the last century, even as the climate has warmed a bit. As far as tropical diseases, deaths from malaria, way down. Some diseases have gone up, but it's not due to climate change. It's due to urbanization. It's due to increased travel, where they're bringing the disease from places where they already exist and are prevalent to places where they aren't. You go down and you get dengue fever or what's Chungachika? I can't even pronounce the other one, but Chungachika or something like that. And then you go back home to Moscow or Minnesota and you have it, and or you ship some stuff. The shipping companies shipping plants from overseas and stuff. The mosquitoes on the bottom side. Look, there's no evidence, no data that shows climate change is making people's health worse. So if they did this, they would just be defying the science on this. They'd say, damn the science, full speed ahead on climate alarm. And that's not going to help the WHO's reputation, which is already pretty much in tatters.
So when I saw this, my initial reaction was to laugh at it, to mock them, to point out all of the failures in the past, especially COVID. But it is something we need to take seriously and be vigilant about. You may recall that during COVID under Biden, the Biden administration, if the WHO says this, that is the way it's going to be. In our country, in the United States of America, the WHO is an NGO pretty much controlled by China that's dictating our policy. But it wasn't just the Biden administration setting U.S. federal regulations, policy on the WHO, but you had big tech censoring anybody who was contradicting what the WHO said, the so-called authorities. And you could take that. So, here the point is, declare the climate emergency, and that gives the power and the authority to do pretty much anything you want, and you appeal to the international authority, the WHO or whoever else. And really, it's setting the stage, not just this, but other assertions of crises and panic, and we need to look to the UN or WHO or whatever. It's setting the stage for the globalist imposition of restrictions on freedoms here in America based upon this appeal to authority. So it's ridiculous, it's preposterous, it deserves mock and scorn. At the same time, we need to be very vigilant and careful about this, and that's something that I take seriously here at the Heartland Institute to keep up with this.
Yep. All right, Anthony.
Anthony thinks it's so stupid. He's turned his back on it.
Yes, he also took off his headphones, so he doesn't know that his back is turned on camera. There we go. He's doing something very, actually, he's the one in the Bond villain lair. If you look at it, it really kind of looks that way. And he just sent off the rocket from the volcanic mountain. Hello, Anthony. You're muted and you're back.
Sorry about that. I was working on something in the background here. So anyway, the good thing is that all of these schemes that they come up with are going to fail miserably. They always do. Of course, it doesn't seem to deter the public from investing in these things. I'm reminded of the Solar Road debacle of a few years ago, where there was millions put into this ridiculous Kickstarter project, where we're going to make roads into solar panels so that they can collect electricity. And it was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in terms of engineering. I mean, it's like, are they not even paying attention to the fact that cars travel on these roads, heavy trucks would travel on these roads, and there has to be transparency into the solar panels below so that they can receive the light? Well, after a few days of running on these things, the vehicles just scuff the surface, and then, you get dirt on it, and that gets ground in and everything else, and the efficiency of the solar panels dives. And then they had problems with weather, with differential expansion due to heat and cold factors associated with different materials. And it was just an absolute train wreck of a project. And no one paid attention to this stuff going in because they've got their blinders on. We're going to save the planet by doing this. It's either that or, as you pointed out, Linnea, they're grifters, or maybe a little bit of both.
Well, James is right about the WTO. Look, there's no scientific justification for declaring climate change a health emergency, but that doesn't mean they won't do it. And if they do,
we may never know.
We may never know.
No offense, but it sounds like some fucking commie gobbledygook.
It won't prevent climate change. You see how I just smoothly went in there? It won't prevent climate change. But what it could do is cost us a lot. It could cost the world a lot because other countries will go down the path. Lockdowns might occur.
Yep.
It can do a lot of damage while doing nothing for climate change.
Yeah. And so we've talked about this a lot on this program that, these are good days. These are the salad days for the climate realism movement. We waited a long time for these days to come, but it wasn't that long ago when things were quite different. I'm having some camera problems now. That's fantastic. We're all getting some tech problems here, but James is right that the buildup, the infrastructure of climate alarmism is global, and it is well funded, and it is still in place. And as soon as I hope this is not a brief interregnum of common sense and science-based policy globally when it comes to the climate, but it very may will be. And as James said, we have to be vigilant and keep communicating the truth. All right. Speaking of communicating the truth, presuming you can still hear me, since I didn't get a reaction to that, that's okay. I titled this last section here, Heartland has them panicked. So forgive a little bit of trumpet tooting right here. And this comes from DeSmog blog. The headline is, and it concerns us, very big story. In fact, DeSmog's been writing about us a lot these days, which means we're effective. But the headline here is, Reform Advisor launches climate denial group in Poland. Now, we talked about this a little bit last week when we had Lois Perry on this program. She's the director of Heartland UK Europe, and she was over there in Poland. But I want to read a little bit from this story and set it up for James Taylor to fill us in a little bit more on what's going on over there in Europe. A close ally of Reform UK leader Nigel Farage has helped to launch the Central European offshoot of a US climate denial group alongside far-right figures. Lois Perry, executive director of Heartland UK Europe, claimed on social media last week that she was, quote, in Poland to launch the Heartland Institute Central Europe. The US-based Heartland Institute, that be us, has described itself as, quote, the world's most prominent think tank supporting skepticism about man-made climate change and has strong ties to the US President Donald Trump administration. Thank you very much, Desmog. A gift basket of fruits, nuts, and coal is on the way. At the launch of the new branch in Warsaw on May 13th, Perry appeared alongside Mariusz Zagorski, a speechwriter for Poland's former president, Andrzej Duda, of the National Conservative Law and Justice Party. Zagorski, who will be the branch's official representative, told Desmog it would, quote, propose solutions on energy costs and, quote, evaluate climate policy. The Heartland Institute's U.S. President James Taylor was also in attendance. Taylor is a Trump ally who has dismissed what he calls the, quote, mythical global warming crisis. James, as stated in this, and as we all know, you were there, and this is a Heartland Institute project, and it seems that the spread of climate realism to Europe, especially with this organization at the helm, has the global alarmist left concerned.
They say I dismissed the mythical climate alarmism crisis, whatever. Oh, I've said a lot more than that.
Oh, you
you put that in there too, Desmog. But anyway, no, I'll give you an overview. I was in Europe for a week and a half just recently, and it's absolutely amazing to see how truth spreads, how as long as people have access to information, humans are intelligent, humans are discerning. And even when someone tries to pull the wool over your eyes over and over again, eventually the truth will come out if people have access to the truth. Now, why do I say this? The first stop of my European tour was in Budapest, Hungary. There's an organization there. It's the Matthias Corvinus Collegium. It is a think tank / educational institution that is conservative oriented. And they decided to convene a forum, what they described as global conservative leaders whose organizations or who personally address climate change. And they wanted to come up with some brainstorming and maybe a statement of consensus on how conservatives should address climate. I received the invitation, and it was quite an honor to get. There were maybe 20 of us, maybe not quite 20, but around 20 of us from literally all over the world, Asia, Africa, South America, Europe. I think I was the only one from America. But what was interesting is I was looking at the people that were going to be there, and I saw that about half of them, from what I could see, had taken the public position that, well, obviously everyone knows that climate change is a crisis. It's a big problem that needs to be solved. So let's come up with conservative solutions, which is pretty much an oxymoron, because what you're looking to do when you say conservative solutions, if you accept the false narrative of a climate crisis, then you have to come up with conservative solutions to restrict carbon dioxide and impose government restrictions, mandates, or inducements for what they see as a problem. So I decided I wanted to go to make sure I had some influence and impact on this group. And so it was a 2-day event. And I spoke on the second day, and it was basically we each gave presentations, short presentations, and then we had various rotating meetings where we would talk in small groups with each other and flesh things out. But it was interesting because on day one of the speakers, a very intelligent, very nice lady from India, she was a professor in economics, and her presentation was, look, as a conservative, it's important for us to be fiscally responsible. That's the root of conservatism, at least as far as economics go. So then she's quoting the WHO, she's quoting the United Nations, she's quoting some other, garbage organizations about all these deaths and economic devastation, and emphasizing the economic devastation that's already occurring and is going to get worse. So as conservatives, her argument was, we need to realize that the ESG movement was flawed. And it was flawed because it didn't go far enough. It needed to restrict carbon dioxide even more. So anyway, my skin was crawling, but so be it. later on, when I gave my presentation, I presented the facts on carbon dioxide, on climate change, on the economics of wind, solar, et cetera. And it was funny, after my talk, she made a beeline toward me. And I thought, oh my goodness, it's going down. She's throwing down on me now. And she said, James, I was really impressed with your talk. I had no idea any of the things that you said that was the case. I had no idea any of this information existed. I had no idea that these were the facts. Please send me material on the climate. Please send me the material on the economics, the comparative sources of power, wind, solar, coal, natural gas, nuclear, et cetera. And in that conversation, she is now going back to India to make the case. She turned around 180 degrees. Now, this is someone who has represented a conservative movement in India, rallying Indians, conservative Indians, to fight carbon dioxide emissions. And that flipped. In our small discussions with others, I was talking with people from Africa, from South America, others from Europe. And it was much the same thing. Wow, I had never seen that, James. Do you have an extra copy of Climate at a Glance? Do you have an extra copy of Affordable, Reliable, Clean Energy Scorecard? Handing them out. I exhausted my supply. I promised to send some to others. But anyway, just that was an amazing experience, because now we're spreading throughout the world what the truth is. Because especially in Europe, but really throughout the world, unlike here in America, where we have an independent spirit, and we want to see for ourselves what we're told to believe from above, around the world, and especially in Europe, the culture is to, oh, well, this esteemed body of the world's foremost experts say so, or who we're told are the foremost experts, it must be true. So it was wonderful to see that happen. From there, I went to Vienna, Austria, where Harold Wilimski, who's a member of the European Union Parliament representing Austria, when he heard that I was going to be in Budapest, he said, James, please come stop by Vienna. I have friends of mine. Harold is a leader of the Freedom Party in Austria. The Freedom Party is the most popular party in Austria. They have a plurality of support, because in European countries, typically there are several parties. So you can be the most popular and have 35 or 40%. So anyway, but he says, James, we're a plurality party. We don't control the government yet, because those from the center to the left band up against us, but we're pretty sure we're going to have power soon. And we need to turn around this garbage. Here in Austria, we have among the highest electricity prices in the world. Please come to Austria. I want you to meet with members, leadership in the Freedom Party. I want you to meet with members in the government, not just the Freedom Party leaders, but members of the government who are open to hearing this information. So he set up a day and a half's worth of meetings with me there. And they said, James, please, this affordable, reliable, clean energy scorecard that Heartland put out, can you do one that's specific to Austria? Similarly, when I was in Budapest, people there, the host of the Matthias Corvinus Collegium, please, can Heartland produce one that's specific to Hungary? Anyways, a fantastic day and a half of meetings there, where basically they're saying, hey, if Heartland can provide us what we need, we want to take Heartland's blueprint, and the moment we come into power, we're going to implement that energy policy and that climate policy here in Austria. And then finally, I went to Warsaw to launch Heartland Central Europe. And Mario Zagorski, who was mentioned in that article, he is a very intelligent man, very highly connected. He was able to arrange meetings with me with the top economic advisors of the Polish president. He was able to introduce meetings with me, and not just shake a hands, meet and greet, but actual sit downs where we're talking for an hour, 2 hours with members of parliament, with likely the next prime minister of Poland. He brought me into Republica TV, which is the Polish equivalent to Fox News. And the owner and president of TV Republica sat and spoke with me for over an hour, talking about all sorts of things. And he wanted to have Heartland experts on TV in Poland, because again, he says, look, we have a few groups here and there, but we don't have anything like the Heartland Institute. We need leadership for the fractured conservative movement, and not just any leadership. You at Heartland, you are the perfect ones to do it. So tying that all together, what we have going on, by the way, Marios, what a fantastic guy. Marios he so loves Heartland. I've had requests, Harold Wilimski has said, please, can you set up a Heartland branch in Vienna? Friends of mine in Hungary, can you set up a Heartland branch in Budapest? Can you set up a Heartland branch in Prague? But the thing is, it takes money. My greatest concern is here in the United States of America. This is my home country. This is where I want policies to be strong. Now, listen, if we defeat the climate alarmism beast in Europe, that's going to defeat it globally. That is where the marching orders for the climate alarmist movement come from. It's the European Union bureaucrats. It's the haughty intellectuals and bureaucracies in Europe. You defeat it there, you defeat it everywhere. But still, there's only so much that I want to devote from Heartland's attention and resources. So when I hear this from people in Hungary and Poland and Austria, I say, look, the European culture, it's not like the American culture. In America, Heartland, we get our funding from individuals who agree with what we do, and they send us $10, $100, $1,000. Some people who have more money can send us hundreds of thousands. Not many, but regardless, you get that whole spectrum of gifts. But in Europe, they don't give. The culture is you get funded by the government. Think tanks get funded by the government. Even billionaires there who love what we're doing, it's hard to get any money out of them. It's just not what they do. So I said, look, if you can raise the money, we'll do it. Well, Marios comes to me and says, James, I so much believe in what you're doing. I think I'll be able to raise some money from individuals here, but I don't want to wait for that. I'll do this for free. Can I do this? Will you let me take the role of director of Heartland Central Europe? You don't have to pay me a dime. This is what I want to do, which is absolutely amazing because, again, this is somebody who has connections, strong connections, close connections with the top leaders of the Law and Justice Party and Confederacja in Poland, with the next prime minister, most likely, with the president himself, with the equivalent of Fox News. And he says, I want to do this for free because I believe in what you're saying. I believe in Heartland's mission. I believe in Heartland. So we have this fantastic opportunity, and it drives the left nuts. By the way, at our launch party, Marios was able to secure a room, and a friend of his donated it, which was wonderful. All right, doesn't cost us a thing. It held 80, and he thought, well, it's just we're saying that Heartland is being launched. Maybe the room's too big. It'll look empty. We're going to have some reporters there. Actually, TV Republica sent a film crew to film the event and then have a segment on it on their television. Well, as it turned out, he had to cut off his RSVPs because the 80 filled up immediately. You're talking an evening, people can be doing whatever they want. 80 people filled the room, and these were members of parliament, think tank leaders, thought leaders, etc. And that is what scares the heck out of the left in Poland. They're writing about it in Poland. Oh my goodness, they're in a panic. Oh my goodness, Heartland, this terrible Heartland Institute is now coming to Poland, just as The Guardian and De Smog have done the same in the UK. And you know what? It's true. They should be panicked because just like in Budapest, when we were able to reach these conservative leaders who didn't know the facts about climate change and who, if they don't know the facts, yeah, that was their logical course. All right, we want to be fiscally responsible. We're getting all this damage from climate change. Let's find a conservative way to address it. But no, the underlying premise is garbage. And that's what we're spreading. That's what we're presenting in Europe. Nigel Farage himself, you go back just 2-3 years ago, Nigel would talk about the excesses of the green transition, but that's where he'd focus. But now Nigel's talking about the whole Green New Deal, the net zero as a whole. And now he's also calling out the scam of the underlying asserted climate crisis. This is the case in country after country in Europe. We have friends in Europe, the European Institute for Climate and Energy, where I've spoken at their conferences going back almost 20 years now. And it used to be until very recently, still, they didn't want to talk about the underlying science. They would talk about the bad policy, the cost of wind or solar. But now you have the realization that what we've been sold is a bill of goods. This is spreading, and what's happening is in country after country. Tony Blair, the former Labour Prime Minister, is now admitting that the UK overreached on net zero, went too far, too fast, and oversold a bill of goods. Germany is now going back to coal power. They're the ones leading this so-called green transition. So we're leading this rise, this groundswell of public opinion and policymakers that's fighting back, that's beating down this alarmist climate narrative. And I'll tell you what, if we're successful, and again, we're doing this, we've got Marios doing this for free, costing us nothing. He's doing this, but he says, having the Heartland name gives me so much more access, so much more credibility, and I can get your materials in front of people here representing you. But the fact of the matter is we are threatening It's like when you get all the way through the vampire castle and you find the vampire asleep in the coffin and you want to drive the stake through his heart. That's what you need to do. That is the heart of the vampire exists in Europe. It's pretty bad here, but it exists worse in Europe. So by fighting this battle and winning in the United States, which we have been doing, and now winning in Europe, they are panicked. So that's the good news. I am just so thrilled about this. And especially to know that we have these friends and allies around the world that say, hey, look, you don't even really need to give us much other than just give us your name, let us carry your flag and give us the materials, because the world is ready for this.
Well, James, I imagine that, it's been a little bit of an uphill battle to, get this movement going in the first place, because Europe, even if they say that they have free speech in their countries, they don't have free speech the way we understand it.
No, and I'm glad you brought that up, because Tomasz Sakiewicz is a gentleman's name who is the owner and president of TV Republica that I mentioned before, the Polish version of Fox News. When I was in Poland, not on this trip, but fairly recently, it was the first time I met Tomasz. And he showed me photos on his wall of him as a young man during communism. And the communists had killed a Catholic priest or bishop for daring to speak out, either explicitly or implicitly, against communism. And there's a photo of Tomasz and a couple of his friends standing guard over the priest's body because they did not want the communists to come and take it away and desecrate it. Tomasz and people throughout Poland and throughout Eastern Europe, and this is why our message is so powerful, they lived through what the left would like to impose and has imposed. And it's what they're looking to impose again. So Tomasz told me when I was there a couple months ago, he told me about how the current government, so Poland, you have the prime minister is part of the self-identified centrist or center left. No, I mean, they're left, center left compared to Mao Zedong, I guess, but they're pretty left. And the president, the prime minister, and the parliament are controlled. They had narrow margin of victory by the left. Then you have a separate presidential election every 2 years, off years. The president has significant power, not as much as the prime minister, but that is the Law and Justice Party. That's the Conservative Party. And so anyway, you have now with the left running the government, where Tomasz was telling me how, for example, a year ago, almost to the day, I remember I was at CPAC Poland. I was speaking there. I had an invitation to go on the stage and talk about bringing free speech to Europe. And the Polish government, so TV Republica filmed the CPAC Poland events and showed much of it on TV. And the Polish government demanded that TV Republica hand over the name, address, and contact information for every person who attended CPAC Poland. The federal government has demanded all sorts of materials, personal materials, business materials, whatever, from Tomasz personally and for TV Republica. They have, for the various things that they demanded, and Tomasz says, go pound sand. He's under threat each and every day to be arrested. But why I bring this up is that while we were there, this is amazing. So Lois Perry was there with me, and for this trip. And so the day, our launch party was in the evening. During the day, Lois is being interviewed by TV Republica. They got the film crew, they're interviewing her. And there's this commotion that is going on all of a sudden. And what happened is a SWAT team from the police showed up at the studio, and they claimed that someone had called in a bomb threat. So they had to come in and they had to enter and they had to shut everything down. And TV Republica, the staff's like, screw you. There's no bomb here. Maybe someone called one in. That's obviously a joke, but we don't trust you. The way you've been coming after us, I don't even think anyone did. But regardless, you know what? It's our property. We'll take the chance. We know there's no bomb. And there's this big standoff for the police. The SWAT teams are trying to get in and shut down the broadcast while Lois is getting interviewed. That evening, Tomasz came. I mentioned how TV Republica sent a film crew to film our event. And Tomasz himself came to speak. And he had to leave early because he was getting reports again of more police showing up at the TV Republica studios, again trying to force their way in. And then just a few days later, you can see this if you do an internet search for Tomas Sakiewicz and police and assistant, whatever. But basically, police showed up at his personal home unannounced, demanded entry. They claimed that they had a report of child endangerment. So they get to the door, they demand entry, and Tomas says, look, there's no children here. And by the way, according to Polish law, you're supposed to have the identity, your identification on your shirt. You're supposed to show identification. You're supposed to show a warrant or whatever the justification for you to get here is. No, I'm not letting you in until you show it. And the police are, oh, well, we're coming in whether you like it or not. And Tomas's assistant, who was there with him, again, demanded that they give their name. And they said, no, you give me yours. And she said, no, you give me yours first. I don't know who you are. So they put her in cuffs. They had Tomas that, I don't know if he ended up in cuffs or not, but basically they're bullying him around, and they go through his apartment, his personal apartment. Now you can ascertain in someone's apartment in 15 seconds whether there's a child in there and whether there's a child in danger. You don't need 5 minutes, 10 minutes, but this is what free speech, it's happened in France where Marine Le Pen, you put her in prison and you say in a democracy that she can't run for president because basically her party's getting more popular. You saw it in Romania where they canceled 2 elections that they were about to lose until they finally got some candidate that they thought they could beat. They allow that. They've had members of the Polish parliament have had arrest warrants put on them as well. They had to flee to Hungary. In Brussels, Belgium, about 2 years ago, Nigel Farage and Viktor Orban were speaking at a rally. The police came in and shut it down, saying the rally inside in an arena was a threat to public order. There's no free speech in Europe. And increasingly, it's not just a lack of free speech the way we have it in America, but it is a threat to the most basic of our rights. And what concerns me, I mean, look, this bothers me if this happens anywhere in the world, but we saw under Biden-Harris, we saw some under Obama, but really metastasizing under Biden-Harris, these types of rights infringing overreaches. Very often they have the trial run in nations in Europe where they have fewer protections than we do. And then you have the left here in America that uses that as the playbook, how to then impose that here in the United States. So I'm very concerned about that. But hopefully with our assistance, freedom will win out, not just here, but throughout the world.
James, I'm reminded of the fact that in Poland during World War II, the Jews who had a different idea about things were prosecuted and killed. And according to statistics I just pulled up, 3 million Polish Jews, about 90% of the Polish Jewish population were murdered, all because they had a different viewpoint about religion. And it's a dangerous thing. That what they're doing, it's like they've completely forgotten about their past, where they persecuted an entire group of people, and not just persecuted, but killed them. And they're completely oblivious to the irony of this. It is very, very dangerous, and I'm very saddened to hear about all of this. But this stuff in the world today gets communicated everywhere, and you can't, do some of this nasty stuff, under the cover of darkness like they used to be able to back then, where there weren't eyes and cameras everywhere. So I suspect it's not really going to get a lot of traction. But I do have a question for you. We translated our Climate at a Glance book about a year ago into Polish. And I was wondering, how well was it received there?
Wow, you're just like setting me up. It's almost as if I would have told you to do so, but of course you and I know I didn't. No, it's been received very well. So much so because also, Anthony, as you know, and as I imagine many of our viewers know, that we recently published an updated edition for Climate at a Glance. And when we published that, our friends in Poland, and in particular our friends in Solidarity Labor Union, who love the book, we've worked with Solidarity. Isn't that amazing? We have a labor union in Poland that wants to work with the Heartland Institute. And we've worked so closely with them. So they asked permission to translate our second edition into Polish. And so certainly, of course. And they've had various questions and back and forth about, particular, how are we translating this chart or this data or this phrase? And we just about got a final wrap on it. So we will be releasing that second edition in Polish language throughout Poland very soon. And when we did the first one, they delivered it to members of the Polish parliament, to thought leaders throughout the country. And then also, I mentioned earlier about the demand for an affordable, reliable, clean energy scorecard that's specific to each country. That is one that the next prime minister, likely next prime minister of Poland, many members of parliament, so many others have asked for as well. Hey, can you produce one that's specific to Poland, to our energy prices and sources that we can publish in Polish to get out there? And so we're going to work together on that. And what's wonderful is Mario Zagorski, who is such an intelligent man, who is such an expert on so many topics, who has these connections, and he's going to spearhead that. And again, it's amazing that we've got people around the world that say, hey, Heartland, I'll do it for free if you let me do it for you. So I can't wait for that to come to fruition as well.
That's fantastic. It really warms my heart to know that book is reaching so many people around the world. And, you talked about setting you up. So here we go. Here's another one. Since you've got a friend going to India, do we want to think about maybe doing one translate into Hindi?
Well, yeah, we'll give that some thought. But really what it comes down to, again, is, can we find people who share this belief and who are willing to put in the legwork? Because, if we were to do it ourselves, and also the buy-in, I mean, it's not as impactful if we're just saying, if we're dropping from 30,000 feet, here's your copy. I mean, it has some impact. But when somebody who's on the inside, when somebody at the solidarity, top levels of solidarity labor union say, we want this, and we're going to disseminate it, and we're going to put our credibility behind it when we give it to members of parliament, that really has an impact. And also when you have our friends at Solidarity that say, yes, we have interpreters, and we're going to pay for the publishing costs. It makes it a lot easier to do these things when we've got folks on the ground who are willing to put that skin in the game. Again, first and foremost, my concern, my time, my resources, my energy are here in America. This is where we are. This is where our supporters are, but this is where we are. Nevertheless, the rest of the world is important too. So yes, if we can get that buy-in from folks where, it makes sense. Absolutely.
I should say that, so I co-authored, I was asked to contribute to a climate and energy at a glance book in Canada. And now I believe they are soon to translate that into French to reach the Quebecois, the French people in Canada. And of course, if it's in French for them, it could be used in France as well, though the economic stuff won't apply to France, but it will, the science stuff that I was involved with will.
So will we have to pretty soon for our climate state summaries? Will we need the 51st for Canada, Sterling?
Alberta, maybe. Alberta, maybe. We should probably get through the rest of the current states before we go to Alberta. Maybe Cuba as well pretty soon. Who knows?
Yeah, Puerto Rico and Venezuela are going to get priority there. Awesome.
Jim's on mute, but there he goes. Look at those lips move.
Oh, I muted myself before I had a fantastic transition to the ad read, and now it's blown. So I'm just going to have to do the ad read as an ad read instead of a funny lead up to an ad read, and tell you about the sponsor of this program, which is Advisor Metals. And we're so grateful to have them as a sponsor, because if you're like me and you listen to a lot of conservative shows streaming on YouTube and other places, you hear a ton of pitches for buying gold and silver and other precious metals. And there are a ton of companies out there that want to have that service for you. But we want to tell you why you should go with the sponsor of this program, Advisor Metals. And it's because of the man who runs the company, Ira Bershatsky. We know him personally. He's the managing member of Advisor Metals, and he is not going to try to do some high pressure tactics or deceptive marketing ploys. You see that a lot in Big Gold. He also doesn't deal in so-called rare coins. When you buy gold and other precious metals from Advisor Metals, as viewers of this program have done, they are all dealing in quality bullion, and that is so much better when it comes time to liquidate this very valuable physical asset. And when you buy from Advisor Metals, you're going to have your investment sent discreetly to your very home. So, also want to point out that Ira is an advertiser on this program because he is an America First patriot. He does not donate to Democrats. He refuses to work with the proxies of the Chinese Communist Party, and he, like us, abhor the machinations and schemes of outfits like the World Economic Forum, the United Nations, and also the World Health Organization. That is why we are so proud to have him as a sponsor. So, if you want to diversify your investment portfolio, or if you want to back up your IRA with real physical bullion of precious metals, go to climaterealismshow.com/metals. You can leave your information there, and Ira's going to make the whole process very easy for you. Go to climaterealismshow.com/metals, and please be sure to tell them who sent you, because that helps this program while you're helping your financial future. All right. Thank you for your attention to this matter. And it is now time for the very popular Q&A. Take it away, Linnea.
All right, my handy dandy notebook is in hand. I have marked all of your questions. I'm going to start with a very important question, a very important suggestion from one of our frequent viewers, Gerard Marsh, who says, can you please make Climate at a Glance into a coloring book for the UK government?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
I think, unfortunately, I think Miliband would still color outside the lines.
All right. And I have a quick question for you, Anthony, from Shuva. This is what's up with that question, who says, why did share links disappear on articles?
Well, one of the downsides of running a major website that's been going on for almost 20 years now is that we have this giant freight train of content behind it. And at the same time, we have people with who are, with the WordPress organization that we run this on. They decided, hey, you know what? We're going to upgrade everything to WordPress 7.0. And, oh, I'm sorry, you don't have a choice. So when they did that, boom, everything went screwball. We've been patching things right and left, trying to keep everything back up. But yeah, it was out of our control, but we'll get it back.
All righty. Let's go. Oh, I wanted to address this really quickly. This is from a viewer called Michael, who said it would be much nicer if they made NGOs illegal. Well, I wouldn't think that would be a very good thing broadly, because I think the Heartland Institute technically qualifies as a non-governmental organization. I don't think I would like that if we don't do very much of the kind of humanitarian stuff that a lot of official NGOs do. But I think our friends CFAC do. So I think you'd be throwing some babies out with that bathwater. I think
you'd also be look. It's speech.
Only government organizations. Yeah,
it's speech, and we should be defending free speech even to the people we don't like.
Well, hold on a second. Here's my problem with that. So there's an organization called Academic Influence, and they use objective criteria to measure the impact of think tanks around the world. They'll look at the frequency that you're in the media, that you're on social media, that your materials are forwarded there, the audience, the size, and academic literature, et cetera. So the more than 11,000 NGOs, well, think tanks, but basically those are NGOs, so that subset of NGOs, of the 11,000 think tanks in the world, they have determined that the Heartland Institute is number 18 in global think tanks impact around the world. So if we get rid of NGOs, that's a bragging point that we can't use anymore. By the way, the 17 above us on average have 10 times our budget. So, that's when you get Sir Rancelot here and others at the Heartland Institute, that's the impact we have.
All right.
That's the Archbishop of Ranterbury James, not Sir Ransel.
Well, no, I'm sorry, but I don't defer to an Archbishop of Rancerbury.
All right. So Mike Johnson says, dim the sun. Are they finally acknowledging that the sun causes warming?
That's perfect.
Very clever.
Yeah. There you go.
All right. Let's see. This is probably a question for Anthony, but Wheelman asks, Dr. Liu King Bin says he can see a signal for HGHG, also known as CFCs, because of the pause in warming that we've seen. Do you agree?
No, not at all. Yes, the global warming potential of CFCs is much greater than that of carbon dioxide, but in terms of the whole scheme of things and the whole energy budget coming in from the sun and going back out to the space, it's a minor player. And so I don't see this as being credible at all.
And I'm not really sure what pause he's talking about.
Well, I think he might have been talking about the pause that we experienced, around 2008 up to around 2015, where there was a pause in global temperature.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But, the whole CFC thing's was just another rabbit hole for the industry. I think it all had to do with patent expiration, honestly. The patents expired on the CFCs that they had been using. And so they created a crisis so that we had to change CFCs to save the planet and all that stuff. Oh, now we can have a new patent for this new CFC that doesn't kill the planet. Oh boy, let's go for that.
Except the new one did, and they've now banned it as well. It sounds to me, Anthony, like you're describing a grift.
Could be. Actually, the whole thing with aerosols and CFCs might boil down to Lois and her glam, and the hairspray going on.
There you go.
Yeah, and this is an add-on question from Tech. Didn't the Trump administration recently rescind the Obama-era refrigerant requirements? I think they literally just did, like, this week.
Yesterday, I believe.
Well, it wasn't the Obama. It wasn't the Obama era. It was passed by Congress under Biden. They couldn't get it done under Obama, and honestly, he's done it through an executive order. I'm not sure it'll stand because it was part of a law that was passed by Congress and signed by the president. I'm not sure he can just undo it.
Absolutely. All righty, let's see what else we've got a good question for Sterling here. Mr. Johansson says, is Sterling's internet provider running on wind and solar?
In Texas, most likely. Yeah. In Texas, we're the largest wind and solar producing state. They just announced yesterday that wind and solar produce more power than natural gas even last year. So the interruptions that I am constantly beset with are probably due to fluctuations in the wind and clouds.
It's shameful, Sterling. You got to fix that.
All right. Let's see. Okay, so Robin over on X asks, what can climate realists do to combat propaganda by Western news outlets? Western news weather outlets, specifically. And I believe that he's kind of referring to their like very extreme color maps that they use for, temperatures during the day, the molten lava scale. And also, I imagine he's probably talking about like the Weather Channel running basically 24/7 climate related stuff.
Yeah, go ahead, Anthony.
Being a television meteorologist for over 30 years and knowing how newsrooms work, they generally react very quickly to negative public opinion. And so here's what I would do. I would write a letter to the news director first of the local station saying, why are you putting on these maps that look like we're roasting when it's only 70 degrees outside? Do that first. Then second, write a letter to the editor for your local newspaper saying, this is ridiculous. We've got so-and-so, the meteorologist on Channel 7, putting up these weather maps that makes it look like, the whole of the Western realm is burning, when in fact, it's not that hot at all. It's just some sort of propaganda to make it look like, climate change is making it worse. It's stupid. Get rid of it, and I'm bet if you get 2 or 3 people to write letters to the editor about that, they will change it.
Yeah, and on a broader scale, I really do believe that people are smart. People are discerning. We just have to get information out to them. It's very fortunate that this is not 1975, where if we were being told about such a climate crisis, none of us would have access. Anthony would, but very few of us would have access to the actual data. And if we had access, we'd have no way to disseminate that data unless we could convince the New York Times or someone to publish it. When we do produce information, and that's something that we do here. I mean, Linnea, your videos, your Climate at a Glance videos get tremendous viewership numbers. I mean, there's nothing like it in the world as far as the climate realism message, these short videos that resonate with people, that people watch, things like that. When we send out Climate at a Glance, we send it out to teachers around the country. We send it out to meteorologists, television meteorologists. It's just a matter of hitting with every weapon we have to get the information out, because if the information's out there, we will win. And I can recall 10 years ago, maybe not even, when many people would say, James, I love what you do. I agree with you on climate change, but I don't think I could give because we've lost. We can't win. And I'm throwing my money away fighting this because they control the schools, they control the media, they have everyone believing it, and we've lost. Well, look what's happened. Now you have the climate left that is losing their minds because they're losing in policy. Our elected officials and Donald Trump, it's not like he's done this in secret. This has been a big topic of his, has come out and said that the so-called climate crisis is a scam. We've got public opinion continuing to move more and more in our favor. And look at the last election. Kamala Harris didn't talk about climate change. She knew she would lose even worse if she tried to make that an issue. So I think what we can do on the more granular level, what Anthony said is absolutely right. And then the larger scale, it's a matter of it's not as immediate and focused where we can see a result when we're just getting the information out there, but it will have an impact. And that's what we do here at Heartland.
Alrighty. Mike Gatsuo, I can answer this quickly, says, isn't silica like that a hazard? Seriously, don't very small particles cause lung problems, or am I misremembering? No, you're right. There are diseases, or I guess like injury-related diseases. You can get like silicosis, you can get mesothelioma type illnesses from inhaling particles. People who work at like sand quarries can suffer from this stuff if they don't have adequate like face masks. Truckers that drive this stuff around can also get it. So in close proximity with large amounts of it, then yeah, you can definitely get sick from it. It's not good to be breathing in solid particles of anything, really. So you can, and that's pretty much the answer. Charlie B says, are they pushing this on us now? This being, I believe, the sun dimming project, because RCP 8.5 died and they're scared the grift might be up. I think so. I don't think it's directly related to RCP 8.5, but I think the reason why they were all of a sudden coming, this, I guess this startup company was all of a sudden coming out with something that they've been keeping under wraps for several years, is not because they are suddenly in a position where they can promote it easier. I think it's because it's actually a lot harder for them to do well with it. And so they're hoping that the publication, the kind of media coverage that they'll get will court some new investors. But all the investment energy is in like AI and stuff right now. So I think they're in trouble.
I think it's a matter of, we need to do this before it's too late, because you know they see the tide turning, the opinion changing. If we don't get our grift on now, we're not going to get into the whole money trough.
You know what I saw with the RCP 8.5, because this is important. They tried to claim that all the climate work they put in so far is the reason why. Oh, we saved the Earth from the very worst. Except they can't show it in emissions. They can't show it. It's false. RCP 8.5 was always false. And my suspicion is what's going to happen is each high, whatever's left is the high end scenario. I think they're talking about RCP 4 now. they're going to have to knock down the top off it again and again and again until the warming that we have is the warming we're going to have. And they're going to have to say, oh, we've solved the crisis and move on to the next crisis.
Short interruption here. I see that Chris Martz has joined us. Hello, Chris. Chris is fantastic. He works so closely with our friends at CFACT. And between Chris and Linnea, we've got this younger generation of Americans that is fighting back against the alarmist garbage. But if you haven't seen Chris's presentation at the most recent International Conference on Climate Change, go to our YouTube page where you can find it. It was amazing.
Yeah, we have to have you back on again soon, Chris.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, I am going to bring up another question related to science stuff that I'm going to pitch to Anthony, which is where to go. Oh, this is a good question from Wheelman, who says, are we certain that the meltwater surges are the cause of the Younger Dryas? Is there any merit to the meteorite storm lasting up to decades? Contribution.
Well, let me answer this definitively. Yes, no, and maybe. That's really all I can say about it. This particular thing is all over the map as far as science is concerned. And so, one says meltwater, another one says meteorites. Then there's another theory floating around out there. Honestly, I can't give you an answer. Hopefully someday it'll get sorted out.
Yeah, I would probably say about the same thing. Paleoclimate is complicated. You can't. There's no such thing as.
Oh, wait. Not when it comes to Michael Mann. Not when it comes to Michael Mann. Everything is exactly right with paleoclimate with Michael Mann.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, actually, I just want to, this is, I guess, the shameless plug edition of the Climate Realism Show. But if you have not ever gone to one of Heartland's climate conferences, you should definitely check out some videos. I've been going to them since 2009. What's amazing is the absolute breadth of expertise that we have at these conferences. We have people we have geologists talking about paleoclimate. We have atmosphere scientists talking about the atmosphere. We have solar scientists talking about the effect of solar. It's such a great learning experience to learn about as much as we can about how the Earth and the climate actually works. So if you're obviously everybody watching this is interested in these topics, definitely check out our playlists for our climate conferences.
This is a question for you, James. What was the name again of the conservative group you were visiting in the EU SSR?
Well, the one in Budapest was the Matthias Corvinus Collegium, Matthias. There might just be one T. I've seen it spelled with two T's and one T. Matthias Corvinus is a very important historical figure in Hungary. It's the Matthias Corvinus Collegium.
Alrighty.
And they're a fantastic group, by the way.
And then this one's for you, Sterling. Polly says, Texans don't know that nuclear power plants have been invented already.
We do.
But you mean to Texas Day?
Yeah, we do. But unfortunately, we have sufficient people who are scared about nuclear here that we haven't been able to expand our nuclear footprint. We've had nuclear power plants. I think we have 2 in Texas with maybe 4 units that have been providing power for a long time. Good, safe power, no crises. But just like in every other state, you have a lot of people who are scared of nuclear and what they call waste, which is just spent nuclear fuel that can be recycled. So we got that problem. We made a devil's bargain when we did our electricity deregulation, and the part of the bargain was we put a mandate for a certain amount of wind and solar. We far surpassed that, but we put up a lot of tax credits, a lot of land property rights abatements and stuff like that for wind and solar at the local level. And then the legislature, in its infinite wisdom, got involved and said, "Oh, well, we've got to do something about transmission, and so we're just going to socialize the transmission for all this wind and solar. Everyone has to pay." So our prices have been going up faster than any other state in the region, despite the fact that we got lots of coal in Texas. A lot of people don't know that, and we've got lots of people should know we got a lot of natural gas. So wind and solar never should have been on the radar screen here, and yet even Republican politicians sometimes drink the Kool-Aid.
Yeah, and Chris Martz points out that 95% of nuclear waste is recyclable, as in they can reprocess it and use it for energy again. Unfortunately, he says, I don't think it's done here in the United States for whatever reason. It's because the Jimmy Carter administration made it illegal. That's why.
Yeah, the reason is this: we did have a plant, a fast breeder reactor in Tennessee, Clinch River breeder reactor, and at the time, Carter was trying to negotiate nuclear non-proliferation with the Soviet Union. And the breeder reactors produce not just fuel, not just fuel grade uranium, but also a little bit of plutonium and bomb grade uranium. And he said, "Oh, we're going to cut this off so we won't be proliferating nuclear fuel. Like we can't protect the nuclear fuel that we have." I forget the last time we had one of our military bases raided and had plutonium taken off of it. Never. So that was just a bad decision by Carter.
Yeah, big
Probably
time.
the only
France
one.
does it. the only bad decision by President Carter. That's right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Chris Nesbitt says, can we thank Jane Fonda for some of the unwarranted fear of nuclear?
Yes.
Probably.
No.
I think we're actually running out of time here. We are a minute over our usual half hour over, so I'm going to hand it back to Jim. Sorry to the audience for the people I could not get to the questions of, but we will see you next week if you come back.
Yes, we will. And one of those questions actually was from Kite Man Music. I know we didn't get it up on the screen. He was asking how many people are watching this live stream today. On all platforms, we usually end the show as we are right now with 1,000 or more people watching every day. That's not bad for a YouTube channel that has been demonetized and suppressed by the tyrants at Google. But thank you to all of the 1,000 people plus that were here for us today, especially you in the chat. It was so lively today and so active. We love to see that, and we love interacting with you. I want to thank our streaming partners once again: junkscience.com, CFACT, the CO2 Coalition, Climate Depot, What's Up With That, and Heartland UK Europe. Thank you, boss. James Taylor, president of the Heartland Institute, for being here today. Thank you, Sterling, for getting your wind-powered internet working today. Thank you, Anthony Watts, for coming to us from your undisclosed location somewhere out west. And thank you, Linnea, for being with us as usual. And again, thank to everybody who watches this show. Please help share with your friends. Come join us live every week, and we will see you again next Friday. Bye-bye.